I strongly believe in the idea of Christians owning property. The world is better off with Christians in positions of financial strength, and cash flowing property can do just that. My friend Steve has built a substantial real estate portfolio here in New Hampshire, and now he's teaching Christian brothers to do the same. Go to consultingbycurios.com. He's got options where he coaches you through buying your first rental property or done-for-you options for busy people. Again, visit consultingbycurios.com. The link is in the description. All right, everybody, breaking news. It is Monday, November 4th, the day before the election, 12:33 p.m., and reports are flying in from all the witches out there that their spells that they're trying to cast against Donald Trump aren't working. That's right. They've been hard at work with their incantations and their candles and whatever it is that they do. But they've been claiming that there's some kind of hedge of protection around President Trump, and their spells cannot penetrate it. They're very worried. And I, for one, could not be happier. Yeah, I plan to vote for Donald Trump tomorrow. I'll be there. I got the text from Trump just the other day. He says he needs me in New Hampshire. So, Donald Trump needs me. I'm there. Simple as that. And, I think, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. A lot of people are feeling very good about it. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think Trump's going to win big. I do. But if he doesn't, while that would be very sad and it would not be good for the country and for us, I don't black pill. You know what I mean? I'm not the kind of guy that says we're going to be loaded into, trucks and trains to go into some kind of Christian internment camp. You know what I mean? I don't have any weird kind of kinky visions of any boots being on my neck. Like, I don't think that way. So, it's going to be fine. We're going to be fine. I've got a lot of confidence in the future. I've got a lot of positivity and optimism for the future. But if Trump loses, it would be definitely a downer. No question about it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to win big. He may even win New Hampshire. So I'll be out there doing my part. You know what I mean? In any case, let's jump into a couple things. And I want to start today talking about my superpowers. I've got some superpowers. And you know what? My friend Joel Webbon, also of Right Response Ministries, he's of course the leader of Right Response Ministries. He's the talking head of Right Response Ministries. But I'm on the board, you know what I mean? And we've got some advantages over at Right Response Ministries. And both of us just have superpowers. And you might think that sounds arrogant, you don't like that kind of thing. Well, tough. It is what it is. Arrogance, if I was arrogant, I would say all kinds of things about me that weren't true. But in this case, it's totally true. It's a complete humility that I talk about our superpowers, and they are superpowers. Let me explain. Let me reveal to you our superpowers. Right? I'll start with Joel. Here's the trick when it comes to Joel Webbon. Right? He's been fielding all kinds of accusations, and this has been going on for years. He's a racist. He's a misogynist. And now the latest version of this is he's an anti-Semite and all of this kind of rhetoric. He's been fielding all of these clobber words, to be sure. And somehow he escapes every single time. You think it's gonna finally sink Right Response Ministries, and then it doesn't. And the reason is he has superpowers. You ready for this? Here's his superpower. He doesn't hate blacks. He doesn't hate Jews, and he doesn't hate women. What can you say? It's a superpower. He can field all the accusations. You could say anything. And the thing is, because he actually doesn't, hate Jews and blacks and women, none of it sticks. And the thing is, he's also got some shrewdness. He's recorded some phone calls. He's kind of done this and that. And, of course, that helps. But it only helps because he also has this superpower. So it's amazing. You're gonna continue to see people that ran with all of the narratives and stuff like that. They ran with it. They took it and ran with it. And you're going to continue to see people, kind of say this and all of that, but it's never going to work because Joel Webbon has a superpower, and that superpower is he doesn't hate Jews, he doesn't hate blacks, and he doesn't hate women. So there you go. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Now your boy AD has a superpower too, because what you're going to hear in the future. You've already heard a lot of this. This is nothing new. This is something that people have said about me for a long time. You're gonna hear that I'm an instigator. You know what I mean? I'm a scoffer. I'm a mocker, and all of this. I'm a brawler, stuff like that. You're gonna hear all that kind of stuff about me. And again, none of this is new. People have been saying this about me for years, but it never sticks. And why doesn't it stick? Well, it's because I have my own superpowers. I do. You see, here's my superpower. My superpower is I don't start fights with friends. I don't start fights with friends. I don't signal against friends. I don't use extreme rhetoric against friends. At least in the beginning. I don't start fights, right? But I do finish fights. And I do participate in fights. I don't start them, though. And so you'll even see, even with this Eschatology Matters stuff, the very first content I ever put out about this Eschatology Matters stuff, I could not have known this was going to blow up the way it has. But it has, and I'm here for it. I'm ready to go. The very first piece of content, I said things like, hey, I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to Tobias forever. I'm not saying that Eschatology Matters is bad, that you shouldn't listen to him. I'm not saying that. And how many times, my friends, how many times on this channel have I said things while I'm criticizing something maybe James White said, a friend, maybe Doug Wilson said, a friend? How many times have I said, I'm not saying you should disregard these guys. I'm not saying they have nothing good to say. In fact, I agree with them on many things, and I think they're very valuable and all this kind of stuff. See, here's the thing about me that unfortunately, you can't attack me that way. Well, I mean, you could attack me that way, but it's not going to stick. It's because while I will fight you, I don't want to fight you. And I don't start fights. And I don't signal against Doug Wilson or James White. I don't do it. Now, I will criticize certain things that they say because that's, of course, allowable, and I always do it from a friendly perspective. But I don't try to destroy the reputations and the ministries of Dr. James White or Apologia Radio or, Fight, Laugh, Feast or anyone in Moscow. I don't do that kind of thing. That's not the way I operate. And so while you can say, oh, he's a scoffer, he's a brawler, all this kind of stuff, the facts of the case, and everybody sees this, are that while I am willing to fight, I don't want to fight. It's as simple as that. And I take this into my personal life as well. I don't want to fight, but I will fight. I don't want to fight. And this is even included in physical altercations, right? I'm ready to go if it's time to go. And I'll fight and I'll do whatever I have to do to win that fight. A physical fight I'm talking about. But I'll also try to avoid the fights. I don't want to fight. I'm never going to be the guy that throws a quick fist. Now, I will throw the most powerful punch that I'm capable of if somebody attacks me, but I'm not going to throw a quick fist. I'm going to try to avoid the fight. This has happened in my life numerous times. I've been in a few physical altercations before. I've never once started one. Now, you might see me take an aggressive posture, and this is funny. This actually happened at the Fight, Laugh, Feast, not the Fight, Laugh, Feast conference, at one of Joel Webbon's conference. He can tell you the story. There was a wacko that came into the conference, and I don't know. I don't even remember what he was saying. He was saying some kind of craziness. Who knows? Who knows what he was saying? But he got a little heated, and I remember I stood up from my chair. That's a posture of I'm ready if it's time. And I told him, I forget what I told him. It was something like, hey, or something like, maybe it's time for you to leave, or something like that. You know what I mean? I said, maybe it's time for you to leave, as I stood up. Now you could take that as an aggressive posture, which it was, I think. And I took an aggressive posture in this Tobias incident. But you're not going to find me starting stuff with friends. Now, I'll start stuff with enemies. That's different. That's different. But when it comes to friends, I don't start stuff, but I will do whatever I can to come out on top if someone's going to start stuff with me. And I think that this is where you need to be pretty much all the time. And whether it's a physical fight or some other kind of fight, you need to be ready to go at all times. And I am ready to go. I am prepared, and I will go, as far as is appropriate at any given time. But the thing is, you're not going to be able to stick anything to me when you say, oh, he's just a scoffer. Oh, he's just a brawler. Oh, he's just a mocker. You're just not going to be able to make it stick because it's never happened. I don't start stuff with friends. In any case, that was the first thing I wanted to talk about today. It's superpowers, man. These are superpowers. And I would suggest that you use these superpowers to your advantage whenever you can. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Now, I saw a tweet, a post from James White where he seems to indicate a little bit of a pivot, a little bit of a shift. He responded to one of his followers, and this is a lot of his followers started believing this, saying, oh, I'm so grateful for you, James, for exposing Joel Webbon for being a kinist, anti-Semite, and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of his followers were influenced by him against Joel Webbon. And to James's credit, he said, I don't believe Joel Webbon is a kinist or an anti-Semite. And he didn't say much more than that. There's a lot more work to do there. I'm not satisfied with that. And, I haven't confirmed with Joel whether or not he's satisfied with that, but I highly doubt it. Because here's the reality. The reality is that big names, it wasn't just James. I'm just talking about his post. But big names, through their reputations and their influence in an effort to discredit Joel Webbon as an anti-Semite. And it worked. And a lot of damage was done because of the cachet and the influence that is well earned from some of these names. It worked exactly as intended. Their dutiful followers all heard the message and said, oh man, Joel is dangerous. And so now, as it turns out, he's not an anti-Semite or a kinist. And so a lot of effort is going to need to be coming from the big names that decided to throw their weight behind these accusations. A lot of effort is required to try to undo a lot of the damage that you did. Now, it's not possible to undo all of the damage you did. It's out there, and now people are going to believe it no matter what. So I'm not saying, Dr. White, you need to undo all the damage you did to Joel Webbon. That's not possible. It's not realistic. But a lot of effort is going to have to be displayed to undo as much of that damage as you possibly can. It's as simple as that. That is what is required. That is your duty to Joel Webbon after lending your credibility to try to destroy him, which is what happened. So, more to come. I can't wait to see how this all works out. Now, the next piece of this video, I was thinking this weekend, and I put a lot of effort into thinking this through. And I thought to myself, why is it that so many people who have their heads on straight for the most part, they understood that back during Woke Wars 1, there wasn't like rampant racism out there. That was all a fantasy. That was all something that people just said to try to beat you over the head, but they knew it wasn't real. There wasn't a racist under every rock. That was obviously not correct. There weren't racists worming their way into conservative churches in record numbers. Like, that wasn't real. None of that was real, and all of these guys knew that wasn't real. I knew it wasn't real, and a lot of these guys knew it wasn't real either. How is it, I'm thinking to myself, how is it that they don't see the same thing with the anti-Semitism? Because the anti-Semitism thing is the same thing. It's not real for the most part. There's not a rampant rise of anti-Semitism in the Reformed Church. In fact, there's so little of it that you have to invent it in order to make it a big deal. You have to say, oh, Joel Webbon might be one of the key figures in anti-Semitism in the church. Like, you have to start making stuff up in order to make it seem real. So it's so fake, it's so obviously fake that you have to invent anti-Semitism. The same thing they did with Woke Wars 1. You have to invent racism to make it seem like it's on the rise when it obviously wasn't. So I thought to myself, why is it that these smart people that have their heads on straight, are being fooled this time? You know, it's not the blacks, it's the anti-Semites. All right. And I think I have a theory, a working theory here, and I want to know what you guys think about this. Now, here's my theory, right? Here's my theory. My theory is that they've perceived an increase in anti-Semitism that isn't real because Twitter in particular used to be heavily censored. Now, X is still censored, so it's not like a haven for free speech or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that. But it's everyone would have to agree, it's way less censored than it used to be. And so what's happened is a lot of people that are used to a certain level of anti-Semitism, which essentially is none. And again, I'm using anti-Semitism in the most generous way I possibly can. I'm not arguing about the definition. I'm just giving them the definition. So I'm talking about what they call anti-Semitism, right? So don't hear me saying that I'm not trying to quibble with the definition. I'm just saying what you would hear James White call anti-Semitism, or even Tobias to some degree. Tobias, what he would call anti-Semitism. I'm talking about that. They're used to seeing none of that on Twitter. None of it. Because Twitter used to be heavily censored. Now Twitter is not censored as much as it used to be, and some of these kinds of statements, which they would call anti-Semitic, are now visible. They're visible on the timeline. And so from their perception of things, wow, look at this groundswell of anti-Semitism. It's the same thing the left does. You know, oh man, X is an anti-Semitic website because, well, it's just because they allow people to express certain opinions. It's not really that X is an anti-Semitic website. It's just that they allow people to share certain opinions. So they see this on X, and they see a lot more than they used to see, and from their perception, that's a rise of anti-Semitism in the church. It's rampant. It's everywhere. It's on the upswing. I don't think that's true. I think it's just visible on Twitter now. That's basically that's my perspective. It's visible now. It's not censored as much as it used to be, and it's not rising. It's just visible. Whereas before, it was invisible. That's what I think's going on, basically. That's what I think's going on. That's why I think someone like me doesn't see a rise of anti-Semitism, because I've been in other parts of the internet that weren't censored, and I've always seen people with these kinds of opinions. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of them. So they've always kind of been there, and it's a small number. It's always kind of been there, but now it's visible on Twitter or on X. Let me know what you think about that. I believe that the rise of anti-Semitism is just as real as the rise of anti-black hatred, which is to say it's basically not real at all. And again, this is the thing. Back in Woke Wars 1, people would say, are you saying there's no people who hate black people? And obviously, I'm not saying that. I know there are some people that hate black people. So likewise, there are some people that hate Jews. But there's not this groundswell in the church of, oh, we're going to be anti-Semites, and it's not real. It's just not real. And the thing is with black racism, too, I mean, the definition of racism back in the day, we used to talk about it all the time, it was essentially meaningless. Like, you know, Doug Wilson didn't think slavery was as bad as you learned about it in high school, and so he's a racist because of that. It's not racism. It just isn't. It just isn't. Very analogously, like it's almost a perfect analogy. Someone doesn't think the Holocaust was as bad as we learned about it in high school. That's an anti-Semite. I mean, these definitions are essentially meaningless. That's not anti-Semitism, obviously. And then I see K-Dub get on there. Well,
I don't know how you could deny the Holocaust without being an anti-Semite.
it's like I've heard the same thing. I've heard people say,
I don't know how you could say slavery wasn't so bad without hating black people.
it's like it's the same thing. You just replace the historical event with the race and it's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's my position. That's my position. My position is woke wars 2 is the exact same war. You just replace certain things with certain other things, but it's the same everything. It's the same arguments. It's the same everything. It's the same everything. And I could easily see,
how could you have someone in your church who doesn't believe slavery was as bad as I learned in high school? How could you commune with them?
It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And we all get it. We all get it. Well, at least on my channel, most of us get it. I know there are some people who watch me that really do believe in the rise of anti-Semitism. Again, I really don't think that that there is one. I think it's fake. I think it's fugazi. Just like I thought the rise of racism was fugazi, and for the same reasons. There are certain things here too that I think are more like almost more obvious to me about this one being fake. Like the kinds of things that get labeled anti-Semitic are so obviously full of theological implications, whereas the black and white stuff, there weren't quite as obvious theological implications. Like Christ is King becomes this anti-Semitic slur, and saying that Judaism is an enemy of the faith in a very real and a very subversive and a very pernicious kind of way. Like, there's obvious theological content there that wasn't quite as obvious with Woke Wars 1, although there was theological content there as well. This one just seems so much more obvious to me. Woke Wars 2 seems more obvious to me. They're both obvious, but this one's, like, really obvious. Let me know what you think. That's all that I have for today. I wanted to just talk about Trump, Hope the guy gets in there, the big guy. Hope he gets in there. I look at voting like, I said this on a show the other day, the Herald, the Paul Herald news show. I look at voting like choosing a neighborhood. You know what I mean? A neighborhood to live in. Like I'm not looking for, like, if I'm out there, shopping for a PC, I'm looking for certain specifications, and when I get the certain specifications for the price that I want, I get it, and I expect the computer that I receive to have those exact specifications, right? It's an exact science. It's mathematically correct. I got the exact PC that I wanted to get. But when I'm shopping for a neighborhood, it's really not like that. It's not an exact science, because every neighborhood or every town has pluses and minuses. You know what I mean? It has a lot of pluses, has maybe a few minuses, maybe it has a lot of minuses, but some big pluses that are a big deal. And I want my family to thrive, right? And so, for example, let's say my parents lived in a town that had a lot of negatives, right? But my parents live there. And my parents being there will be helpful as far as my family thriving. My kids get to spend time with their grandparents, and they can get to know them a lot and help in the family and stuff like that. Like it's not a perfect situation, but what I'm thinking about is the whole of thriving as a family, right? And so, when I'm looking for a neighborhood, I'm looking for an opportunity to thrive. It's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be pluses and minuses, but I'm looking for, how can I thrive in this environment? That's how I look at voting for president. It's like, what president would be helpful as far as my family thriving, as far as my people thriving, the church thriving? I'm looking for the right neighborhood, and there's going to be negatives. It's always trade-offs, right? That's how it is when you're voting for president, just like a neighborhood. There's always trade-offs, but I'm looking at the big picture. How can I thrive, right? That's how I look at voting. I don't look at it like shopping for a PC, where I need my exact specifications, and if it doesn't meet those specifications, the PC is worthless. That's how I see it, and so I think Trump is the obvious choice. We've been blessed in this election with such an obvious choice. And I remember back, a few years ago, I was saying it was a sin to vote Democrat. And I was one of the few people saying that. Now there's tons of people saying that. And I am just, praise God for that he's given us such a much easier choice this time around. I thought the last one was easy, but whatever. This choice is much easier. And many are saying how it's an abject sin to vote for Kamala Harris and then that gay guy that she's running with. What's his name? Yeah, the guy with he does the little kicks and the weird ways and he walks around like this. Like, man. Forget his name. Who cares? Who cares? It is an obvious choice, my friends. You should vote for Trump tomorrow. I know some of my friends aren't going to vote for Trump, and they've got their reasons, and I'm not trying to convince them. I'm just saying I'm voting for Trump. I think you should too, and I think the choice is obvious. It's never been easier, my friends. It's never been easier. In any case, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.